We're heading to Dawnstar for one of the shortest Daedric quests there is, Waking Nightmare, which ends at Nightcaller Temple just nearby. As you enter Dawnstar and move through the town, the NPCs will talk about having nightmares or restless nights, and will usually direct you to the Priest of Mara inside the inn.
Curse. It has to be. I've got to get out of this town.
You can actually just head straight into the inn and talk to Erandur, the priest that they'll direct you to. He'll basically let you know it's the Daedric Prince Vaermina who's stealing people's memories while they sleep, and he'll ask for some help getting rid of the problem. We need Erandur to leave the inn before us, otherwise he won't come with us to the Nightcaller Temple,
It's the same tree.
and he usually likes to stay in the inn and talk to NPCs or listen to the bard or just have a drink. Just sprint and bump into him to try to pass dialogue along or get him moving. Once he starts heading for the door and heads outside, you're good to go. Once outside the inn, Erandur will start to, very slowly, make his way to Nightcaller Temple. You can see the temple from Dawnstar, and it's not too far of a walk, unless you're going his speed. You can run ahead to Nightcaller Temple, but sometimes if you run too soon, Erandur will get stuck, and he'll just wait for you to come back before slowly walking again. I don't recommend fast traveling either, as that'll usually make him just stop.
The tower on that hill is our destination. People around here call it the Tower of the Dawn.
Once Erandur points out the tower, you're usually good to run ahead, and he'll continue following, albeit still very slowly.
When the temple was active, the priests would
You can stick around with him and listen to him talk about the tower and the lore of it a little bit more, but we're just going to run ahead. As you run ahead, be sure to check behind and see if he's still following. If he's coming, he'll sometimes run, he'll sometimes walk, but as long as he's making his way, you're good to go. If he's stopped or you don't see his quest marker moving, just run back to him and walk a little bit further before you start running ahead again. There will be 3 enemies at the top of the hill defending the outside of the tower, and if you need help with them, you can wait for him to come up closer, as Erandur has some pretty good fire spells, which are especially helpful against the trolls if you need a little pick-me-up. Once he gets close enough, you can stand up by the door and wait for him to talk to you.
Before we enter, I must warn you. No. Knowing they could
Erandur will talk about how there's going to be a bunch of orcs and a bunch of Vaermina followers inside that were put to sleep by some gas, and that they'll probably wake up and fight you. Once he gives you this warning, you're good to go. I do recommend saving before you head inside, because in the past I've had a few times where this quest bugs out or it doesn't progress, and I get soft locked. Once inside, there's a nice little shrine of Mara you can check out that Erandur previously set up, as well as a chest along the back wall that has a novice lock. Otherwise, inside this room, we wait for Erandur again.
Give me just a moment, and I'll have this open.
Normally the temple's sealed off if you try to go inside, but Erandur will come over and open up the wall, and you can both walk through.
Now I can show you the source of the nightmares. Over here.
Erandur will show off the Skull of Corruption, which is the artifact we're gunning for.
Behold the skull of corruption.
Something you might notice is Erandur's usually the quest marker and nothing else, but you can run ahead without him and he'll catch up. After he shows you the skull, there will be 2 orcs who are waking up that we have to take care of. They're pretty easy prey because they do the waking animation.
Damn it! The priest must have
Once Erandur gets to the barrier, he'll talk about how the barrier was set up to stop progress, and how he can get through it by going through the library. He'll continue to lore dump as well, saying that he was a follower of Vaermina before, and that's how he knows all about this location. Once you get the prompt to follow him to the library, you're good to run ahead. For most of the enemies in this temple, as you might have noticed with the first two orcs, they'll be pretty easy. All the enemies have to go through a waking animation, which means it's easy to get on top of them and do damage quickly, and the orcs cap out on their level at about 25, so if you're over 25, they're pretty easy prey. As for the followers of Vaermina, they're just wearing robes and don't have any armor, so overall you shouldn't have too hard of a time unless you're a pretty low level. And even if you are, Erandur helps with some fireball spells. Once you clear out the 5 enemies inside the library, Erandur will want to talk to us. He's going to ask us for a book, so before that, we're going to go find it. Up in the starting area of the library, there will be a beam that leads to this large book called the Dreamstride. It's kind of off in the corner, but it is obvious when you see it. Big, bright blue.
Perhaps we can locate the information on it. We're looking for a book of the tome bears the likeness of Vaermina.
Settle down, Erandur. Stop jumping.
Should be here somewhere. Let me take a look.
Once you give him the book, he'll say we need to go to the alchemy lab next. Different dialogue can have him tell you different things about the temple or what they're doing, but otherwise all the dialogue progresses the same.
All believe there is a laboratory in the East Wing. If we proceed there, we should be able to locate a sample.
Once Erandur's done talking, we're going to progress and find some more waking enemies. Again, the orcs will be lower level but have a little bit of armor, and the Vaermina followers will be no armor, but they do have some powerful spells if they wake up, so just be careful. Just like before, Erandur might take some time to come to you, and you might need to run back and make sure he's coming. There's not too much loot in this temple of note until you get to the alchemy lab, and beyond. Once inside the lab, there will be an orc and 2 followers up high, and 1 follower and 1 orc down below. The 2 enemies below will usually wake up while you're killing the enemies above, so you might actually have a fight for once in here. Once the lab is cleared, Erandur will talk to you and tell you to find the torpor, which he needs to progress through the quest. Where could it be? Sharp eyes, Erandur. The torpor is marked, and once you grab it, you can go talk to him and progress the quest. Before that, I'd recommend checking out the lab, because this actually has a lot of valuable loot in the form of alchemy ingredients. Every shelf is chock full of ingredients and potions, and you can even find some rare things such as giant toes and even 2 Daedra hearts. Of note as well, there will be a skill book for alchemy on a destroyed table. Once you're ready to go, speak to Erandur and let him know you have the torpor. He'll tell you to drink it, which will start the next part of the quest. For the love of God, save. Simply go to your inventory and drink the torpor. It'll put you into a dream state, which is basically a cutscene. And man, oh man, I probably softlocked here more than any other time playing Skyrim. Sometimes dialogue just doesn't progress, sometimes triggers don't go, sometimes things go wrong. There's no real challenge in here, you just gotta hope you don't softlock. A lot of patches that Skyrim's had have fixed a lot of the problems, but
Think
it's
I
still
just
nice to save just in
but it
case.
hasn't. You must activate the barrier and release the miasma.
In case you're wondering about the
Nothing will
lore,
stop you.
you're basically
Let
seeing
her
the
go.
past through the
We
eyes of
stay
one of the
here,
priests of
guard the
Vaermina,
skull with our lives if
right
necessary.
as the temple is invaded by the orcs.
To the
They
devil.
tell you to go release the miasma, which is where the barrier was when you first entered the temple, and you can take this time to kind of scout out what you'll have to deal with. There will be orcs and followers fighting, and none of them will actually look at you or bother with you, and you can't get hit either. You can try to see where some loot is, but there's not too much to be found other than a couple chests, and these two guys, who are buddy-buddy, I guess. Once you get to the chain, go ahead and pull it, and give it a couple seconds. You can't move, but you can still turn around and look at the fight. You'll then wake up, where you have to wait a couple more seconds. You're back at the barrier in the place of where the dream state was. After a short wait, you'll be able to grab the soul gem, which drops the barrier, and gives a couple dialogue options with
You
Erandur.
vanished after drinking the torpor. Sadly, I am indeed. The inner sanctum lies ahead. We must reach the skull and put an end to Dawnstar.
Not all the enemies you saw will be present as you progress, and you'll see some bodies, but just be ready for anyone to wake up. That'll be as easy as the people before. The first room will have two Vaermina followers, as well as an enchanter's table with a couple good potions on it. There will be some basic chests, some open, some locked, along the way as well to keep an eye out for. As with before, just make sure Erandur's following, and if he ever gets stuck, head back to him and sprint into him if he needs a little bump. The orcs will usually have pretty basic weapons and armor equipped, while the Vaermina followers usually have alchemy ingredients and potions, and their unique robes if you want them. Otherwise, there's nothing too remarkable about the enemies here. Inside their bedrooms, there are two chests, one locked, and one next to a couple good potions and some gold. Inside the dining room, there will be an orc who doesn't wake properly, and you actually talk to him to get him to come up. Thank you, Erandur.
We fight to the last. Dare you defile this temple, orc?
Once you get to the door up ahead, open it up, and make sure Erandur comes through with you. Once he does, a cutscene will trigger. Although Vaermina doesn't have a lot of dialogue in this mission, as you can see, we still have unskippable dialogue.
You're a traitor. You left us to die.
The Vaermina followers will confront Erandur about how he betrayed them, he ran away, yada yada yada. A lot of people are going to need to die. You automatically sheath your weapon and are a couple steps behind, so this fight can be a bit troublesome on lower levels, because both priests will start with some spells and usually backpedal. Still, they have no armor and shouldn't be too much of a problem once you get on top of them. Cool. They love their shock spells.
Vaermina, forgive me. I knew.
When they're dead, Erandur will once again reflect on how he was formerly a follower, yada yada, continue on, go through dialogue.
Stand back. I'll perform the ritual granted to me by Lady Mara. First.
Once again, Erandur likes getting stuck. What I usually like to do is let him get to the stairs before I head up. Once he stops, I'll walk across in front and wait next to the skull. When in doubt, sprint and shove.
I call upon you, Lady Mara. The skull hungers. It yearns for memories and leaves nightmares in its wake. Grant me the power to break through this barrier, to send the skull to the depths of oblivion.
As Erandur drops the barrier and begins the process of destroying the skull, Vaermina will start to talk to us and try to convince us that Erandur will turn on us. She'll tell you to kill him and you'll get the skull, or alternatively, you can let him destroy the skull and he'll become a follower for you. If you want the Oblivion Walker achievement, go ahead and stop him. Although he does have some nice fire spells, he's still just wearing robes and is an easy kill. Once he's dead, we're good to grab the skull, and there's no pomp or circumstance. Thanks, Vaermina, getting straight to the point. The quest will complete, and let's take a look at the skull and see what it does. It's a unique staff that fires a very quick, invisible projectile, which does a bit of damage. If you use it on a sleeping target, it doesn't do any damage and isn't considered hostile, and actually absorbs power to make the skull stronger for 12 hours. With the skull in our hands, Waking Nightmare is complete.